Okay, hello and welcome back to D-Vlog. And I'm in conversation with a man whose band has just laid down not only what I think is one of the albums of the year, but it's a firm contender for one of my favorite albums I've heard for a long time. So
Wow, thank you.
Zachary from Imperial Triumphant is here. We're going to be talking about his upcoming album, Gold Star, which is out on the 21st of March via Century Media. Zachary, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me today.
Right, man. It's a mind-blowing record. I've had it for 24 hours and I've listened to it three times and it's just one of those ones. I wanted to take it back to the beginning again after my first listen, but I was like, hang on, give it half an hour, let that settle in, then listen to it again.
Okay, nice.
Congratulations on it, man.
Thank you very
So,
much.
this album, as with all of your albums, as I understand it so far, is inspired by New York City. And not just the city itself, but the architecture, the culture, the sounds, the sights. What is it about New York that is this like melting pot of inspiration for you?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just got a lot going on, and there's a lot of history to it, a lot of unique aspects to it. But I think the real reason is really just based in like, I think it's important to write about what you know, and I'm from here, so it's really quite easy for me. I live here, I'm from here. If I was to sing about, like a more like classic black metal trope like nature and fjords and shit, like it would be the most inauthentic thing because I don't know anything. I didn't grow up like that, you know? So I think being true to yourself and writing about your environment is really just an honest way to seek inspiration.
Absolutely. And I've spoken to black metal artists several times about them taking inspiration from their surroundings. And usually, yes, it is from like the countries like Norway and stuff like that. And I think that's what makes Imperial Triumphant so unique is that it's an inner city experience as opposed to a countryside experience. And it certainly
Exactly.
comes across. Hmm?
Precisely.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one thing that also comes through listening to your music is how much jazz is involved in it. Have any of the band members, are you from jazz backgrounds or have you been jazz trained?
My rhythm section both have jazz degrees, and they both have about 20 years each plus in the New York jazz scene. I don't have as much. I have maybe like 5 to 7 years of like jazz manouche, gypsy jazz gigging, and swing gigs and blues stuff, but not so much trad jazz.
Right. Would you have been like member residents at the knitting factory or somewhere like that? Would you have been down there to see John Zorn or
No,
any of those?
oh no, I had residences at like restaurants and hotels and did like wedding gigs and stuff like that.
Very cool, very cool. So, it's been said in the past that improvisation actually is a core aspect of your band. Is that how the songwriting comes about, or do you have a more traditional approach to songwriting?
The approach to songwriting is different every single song, you know?
Mm.
Sometimes it comes from an idea, sometimes we flesh it out in the studio, sometimes just the string section will work on it, or sometimes someone will come in with a completely finished idea with the sheet music and everything, hand it out to everyone, and we just play it note for note. So there's no wrong way to write an Imperial Triumphant song.
That's awesome. And I've noticed that the structure of your songs on this album is a lot more succinct. Most of the tracks are about 5 minutes in length.
Yep.
You can listen to the entire album in about 35 minutes, 40 minutes. Yeah, it's a very punchy record. Was that a conscious effort to make things a bit more concise?
It sure was. We wanted to challenge ourselves. I think as experimental artists, it's very easy for us to get lost and just write these long, through composed, epic sonic journeys. I love everything that we've done, but I said, oh, well, maybe we should try a challenge, a creative challenge. Maybe we can try to make something short and more rock formatted and try to write something that's more memorable, more catchy, even, and see like, can we do it? Can it still sound good? Will it still be authentic, and I think that was a really, really good challenge to bring into a band that's been this is our sixth record now, you know.
Mm. And I noticed on a lot of people's records, around about the track five mark, you seem to get a respite. Sometimes that's when they'll put an interlude track where the tempo goes down. You've done the opposite. You put in a 58-second grind track with
Yeah,
your longtime collaborator Yoshiki Ohara from Bloody Panda. And that is such a genius part of that track. I love that when that vocal comes in.
thank you.
So was that a kind because it's followed up by the Gold Star theme song, which
Yeah,
it's that juxtaposition on purpose.
well, I'll tell you why they're there. Because I saw a review recently that was like, what the fuck are these two songs doing in the middle of the album? They're the end of the A side and the beginning of the B side on the
I see.
vinyl. And I wanted this jingle to be the first thing on the B side, so it feels like this sort of paid advertisement from our sponsor, Gold Star Cigarettes. And uh and so that's why it's where it is, because it's actually when you buy the record, it'll start the B side.
That's amazing. Right, so there's a name on this record. I mean, because this is a like there's a lot of cool drummers on this record. Your own drummer, and then Thomas
It's
Hart
pretty cool.
from Meshuggah. Is he not drumming? He's doing vocals.
He's doing vocals.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the greatest drummers in the world, and he's doing vocals. But then you've got another drum pioneer and a man I've spoken to recently, Dave Lombardo jumps on board for the
Hmm.
absolutely incredible Pleasure Dome record. Now, I have questions about this. Is there two drummers on that record, on that track? Is
Well, there's
Dave
Kenny
doing
playing
percussion?
drums. Yeah, Dave's just playing drum solo.
Right.
So
Yeah,
he's
there's
just soloing, he's shredding, he's doing his thing. And the
absolutely.
rest is all Kenny, all the percussion, all the kit stuff.
That's incredible. How did that collaboration come about?
We met Dave a few years ago at a festival, and he was really nice, and he expressed that he enjoyed our music. You know, like I've said it before, like we don't ever cold call people to be a guest. It's pretty much people that we know and that we think will get it and understand it and do a good job elevating it. And Dave's definitely one of those players, you know, beyond Slayer, he's in a lot of other projects, including personal favorites of mine like Fantomas
Mhm.
and Mr. Bungle. And that sort of made us realize, like, oh, this guy's totally going to get it. He's going to knock it out of the park. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with what he laid down.
Yeah, so when I spoke to him, it was like you could tell he was a music lover. I said, like, I got the
He's a
impression from
genuine
him
guy.
that
He's a real guy.
yeah, it wasn't about money or anything. It was like, no, 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 no. I make music because I have to. And you know when someone's amazing when they say that.
That's a real artist who says something like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, I have to ask you something. While I was listening to the album, there's a track Hotel Sphinx, which, as I've read, has got a Kubrick inspiration behind it, Stanley Kubrick inspiration. Now, there's a musical motif running through that, a keyboard part, and I'm been trying to place which movie that's off.
It's sort of a Wendy Carlos version of Barry Lyndon,
Right,
which is also a Kubrick movie.
right, right, because I'd heard it. I've been trying to place
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you've heard it.
Oh yeah, man, I was like, is that off Scarface? Because it sounded a bit
No.
the keyboard sounded Scarface, the
Well,
voice,
yeah, because Wendy Carlos, she did the score for Clockwork Orange.
of course.
So it's sort of like a Clockwork Orange version of an Imperial version of Clockwork Orange doing Barry Lyndon. That's like the idea. I don't know. It's kind of fun. It's definitely not trying to be original. It's like it's an homage or whatever, you know? Like
Yeah.
it should be it's a little tongue in cheek, it's a little playful, but it's fucking awesome at the same time. So who
Oh, it's
cares?
so good. So good. And it's not the first time you've referenced Clockwork Orange. I've seen
It probably
t-shirts.
won't be the last.
I've seen your t-shirts.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're cool, man. Right. Now, you've long paid tribute to cinema. as we've just said. Most notably, obviously, Metropolis and Megalopolis. The Francis Ford Coppola directed movie. Now, are there any recent films that you found inspirational in the same way?
Mm, good question. Not so much. There was this movie called Vox Lux that came out like 5 years ago or 6 years. And the only reason I went to go see it was because my friend was in it and he was starring alongside like Jude Law and Natalie Portman. And he was on set wearing an Imperial shirt and they asked him if they could, where he got it. And next thing you know, Natalie Portman's sister in the movie is wearing an Imperial Triumphant shirt.
My God.
And so I was like, all right, fuck, I gotta go see this movie and see my own shirt in it, you know?
Yeah, right.
But that's not why I was inspired by it. The thing I do like about the movie, it's not a good movie, first of all. But what I do like about it is that they do these exterior shots of New York City and they're really well framed. They look really good, really
Yeah.
angular. They accentuate the ziggurat design so well. And so in that regards, I really appreciated it.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, talking about New York City and New York architecture, you track Lexington Delirium is inspired by the Chrysler Building, which iconic Art Deco building. And you shot a video there. How was that experience?
It's a dream come true, man.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's the only way to describe it. Dream come true. Could not have been happier with the results and how it went down and just yeah, what how lucky are we to be shooting in the Chrysler, you know? Like unbelievable.
Was that a logistical challenge at all?
No.
Oh.
We got really, really lucky and we got a lot of support and it was one of the easiest music videos to shoot. All you need to do is just make sure you follow up on emails
Hmm.
in a polite way, of course, but that's really the only hard part. Everything else was really easy, and the video just, yeah, it was a dream come true of mine, literally, and I'm so happy with the final product.
Yeah, man. And yeah, so with all of this together, it's like you really are pushing, the boundaries of extreme metal, and to the point where it seems like a disservice to you to call it extreme metal because metal seems to be only one part of it. Who else are you like hearing out there that seems to be pushing things forwards? Like, I mean, we see Blood Incantation put out an amazing record last year. Is there anybody else we should be watching out for?
Good question. I'm trying to think of like stuff that's coming out that's like pretty boundary pushing. Um, Give me a moment. Sorry.
No problem.
I think the new Aranzi Pazuzu record's pretty weird.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
I think I mean the Sleep Token dropped a record an album or a song yesterday and I listened to it and I was like, "Oh, this is not even a metal song." So like
Mm.
that's pretty that's pretty pushing the boundaries, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it
I
seems
think
like all
yeah,
bets
next
are
thing
off a
you
little.
what?
I said it seems like all bets are off with that band. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of I mean Zeal and Ardor, they're
Oh
kind
yeah.
of pushing into poppier territories as well. You know, I think yeah, I think that, you know, there's really metal's at a place where you can't really play any faster and you can't really play tune any lower. So it needs to either grow or it'll become institutionalized and just become rehashed garbage.
Yep. Yep.
So, you know, there are a lot of bands sort of just rehashing the past, but then there's a lot of bands pushing into new categories and new worlds. You know, there's a lot of bands going, adding pop elements into, and we thought we would add more unpopular genres like jazz. You know, what other really unpopular, fiscally successful genres can we throw into our music?
Yeah.
Maybe
I've
we'll
of-
start adding classical guitar into it, you know?
yeah,
The
man. Yeah.
loneliest of all.
Yeah. I've often said all the stuff I think's cool makes no money.
Dude, yeah, I often feel like I'm living in an alternate reality where like because everything I like nobody else likes and
Yeah.
everything that I like makes no money. And I just think like, oh, how great would it be if like I loved making shitty music
Mm.
and I could make a living like a great like ton of cash with it and fucking be rich and just like be happy with the music I'm making. Every that's like a lot of musicians that are at the top. I'm not even talking about metal now. I think a lot of musicians at the top, like I guess DJs and rappers and pop stars, they obviously like the music they're making. I assume.
Mm.
I hope. I hope they like it. And if that's the case, then how fucking cool is that?
Yeah.
That they're like crushing it
Yeah.
and and they're like making music.
Mm. Well, it's all we can ask for. Mind you, what is success? I guess success is being happy.
Yeah, that's true. And success is, financial success is only one piece of the pie of the success pie. But I will say this, like I look at bands like Lorna Shore who are on our label and they're really, really doing super well as like far as heavy metal go as like heavy music goes.
Mm.
They're really big
Mm.
and they're definitely not a pop band.
Mm.
And to me that's inspiring because oftentimes when you're in the metal world, the crazier the music, the more underground and less popular it'll be, right?
Mm.
That's how I've always felt. But then I always looked at bands like Behemoth and who else is like, I guess Behemoth is probably the most extreme band that's quite popular, you
Well,
know?
Iowa by Slipknot was like a pretty much an extreme metal record, wasn't
That's a
it?
pretty extreme record, yeah. So like, yeah, and even Slipknot and all these bands like, but even Slipknot and Metallica, they have ballads and they have
Mm.
clean vocals and shit. So like I really admire the bands that have blast beats and screaming and are really selling a lot of fucking tickets because that means that it's possible and that's really
Mm.
inspiring.
Definitely, definitely. So, you released a bunch of cover versions in 2023. Most notably for me was your version of Paranoid Android, which I adore. I think that it's
Thank
better.
you.
I love the original, but I'm not generally like few people can cover Radiohead and pull it off, but that was great.
Thank
Um,
you.
did that did that inform any of your songwriting as you were going into this record, doing those like because they're
Probably.
quite a broad range of styles you got going on there. You know, everything from
Yeah,
Coldplay
probably
to
influenced it
Metallica.
in some regard, right?
Mm,
I don't really know exactly how, but I'm sure there's some like aspect of inspiration there.
mm. How did you go about selecting which tunes to cover? Was it like you take a vote between you, or
Yeah, that's exactly what we did actually. Now that I think about it, we made a big list, like maybe 10, 15 songs, and we all just voted like what are our top three. And whatever the crossover was, that was the ones we are gonna do.
fair
And
play?
yeah, some of these songs I had never even heard before. Like I never heard Paranoid Android until Steve suggested it. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great.
Mm.
This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
I could hear the possibilities, you know?
yeah. It's got quite a lot of facets to that song. It goes through a few changes, so it sounds like it would lend itself to being Imperial
Yeah.
Triumphanted.
It just felt like, oh, I could hear like, oh, I could do something like with my guitar here. We could change that, like there's because we like to reharmonize shit, we don't want to play everything note for note. It's just not our style.
Mm, mm. There's a point on your new record on the last track actually, a guitar solo, right at the end, which is like pure jazz blues, man. I love it.
Dude, yeah. I said this in an interview recently. I go, that's a straight up pentatonic
Yeah.
solo as a big, huge fuck you from me to me.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, dude, that shit was so funny, man. We're just thinking like, what a funny way to surprise everyone and just really close out the album with just a balls out, fucking big Russian muff pedal, just pentatonic tonal solo.
Yeah, all your licks are in there, man. All the licks. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. Love it. Love it. So I've been ending all my interviews this year with this question because we're going to make a playlist at the end of the year with all of the selections on it. So my question to you is like, if the government came to you,
If
uh,
who?
yeah, and asked you for a song that you would put on the national curriculum for
The
every
government?
child below the age of 18 to hear before they go to college, what song would you recommend they listen to that would
If the
set them up?
government asked me this,
Well, the education people asked you.
the Board of
What,
Education wants
yeah,
me to make a mandatory Imperial Triumphant song.
or any song, any genre, an
Well,
essential
obviously, I'm
song.
going to pick my own band, right?
Do that. Do that.
Of course. Maybe I'll get a couple fans from it, huh?
Okay, do that then.
Yeah, dude. I would do Industry of Misery. That's so funny.
Cool. Now it's set
Make
up
them
kids.
listen to Industry of Misery and then they just like enjoy school.
Yeah. Fair play. Fair play. Love it. Right, mate. Thank you so much for joining me today, Zachary.
Thanks for
And
the great questions, man. I appreciate it.